Ranger, a lot of the base features didn't change, but they do now get expertise at level 1, and now it just has favorite enemy, which we're going to see how that changes in spellcasting. You also see they have cantrips. If you remember, Tasha's Cauldron gave them an optional ability to get cantrips as their fighting style. Now they just get cantrips. And they get spellcasting at level 1. It used to be at level 2, and that was always kind of a little disappointing as a ranger. It's like, oh, level 1 I don't have it. Or if I wanted the multi-class with ranger, it's like, oh, I have to go 2 levels to get a few spells. Starting equipment, 150 gold. Holy cow. So rangers, they're not just bushwhackers who are eating mice. They're rolling in it. They've got a ton of equipment. They lost their direct exploration mechanics, which I've often heard people complain about, and now it's kind of a trade-off. Basically, their auto succeeds on like gathering food and water. Those are gone. First level expertise, great. And then favorite enemy. Basically, you can now Hunter's Mark. You always have it prepared, and it doesn't count against the number of spells you can prepare. You don't have to concentrate on it anymore. Because a lot of people like Hunter's Mark, and they wanted that to be a base feature for the Ranger. We're going to see in the subclass of the Hunter that I think all the subclasses are going to zero in on Hunter's Mark and how they can use it in unique ways. But if you didn't want a spellcasting Ranger, which a lot of people were trying to move it towards, like, let's not focus on spells for the Ranger, let's have them do other cool stuff, this won't be super exciting for you, unfortunately. Tasha's optional features are now just features, the expertise at level 9, and then Nature's Veil. This used to be that it was proficiency times per day, and it said you become invisible until the start of your next turn as a bonus action. Now as a bonus action, you expend a spell slot, so it's not proficiency times per day, it's you have to use a spell slot to activate it, and you become invisible until the end of your next turn. So this effectively can make you invisible for 2 rounds of combat. It doesn't break the invisibility if you attack someone or anything. You're just invisible. That means you're a hidden attacker, an unseen attacker, excuse me. So you will have advantage on your attack rolls against your enemies while you're invisible for 2 rounds. So 1 spell slot, you gain advantage for 2 rounds. People can't see you, so they have disadvantage to attack you. This is a really good feature, is what I'm trying to communicate here. They also get blind sight within 30 feet at level 15. And then Foe Slayer. I still think this is lame. The original Foe Slayer, their capstone was pretty bad. The original was once per turn, you could add your wisdom modifier to an attack roll after you see it or a damage roll. Now it's just your Hunter's Mark deals a d10 instead of a d6, which essentially means your average damage goes up by 2 per attack. For the sake of analysis, let's say Foe Slayer now with this version, if you have Hunter's Mark on a creature, that's an if, you'll do +2 damage to it compared to what you would do before. Whereas Foe Slayer before could potentially turn a missed attack into a hit. Anyone who's done DPR calculations knows accuracy is DPR because that's less damage per round that you lose on missed attacks. I actually think I prefer the original Foe Slayer. Let's say you're a ranger and you use a bow and you would make 2 attacks each turn, let's say with a longbow. If you hit with both attacks and you don't need to boost the accuracy, then on the second attack, you just boost the damage. So basically every turn you're attacking, it would either make sure you attack hit or you do a little bit more damage based on your wisdom modifier. If your wisdom modifier was +3, you basically would be doing about the same damage that output with this Hunter's Mark if you were making 2 attacks per round. All right, so Hunter, I'm going to say I don't like this and I'll show you why. So with the Hunter, in their interview, Jeremy Crawford said this subclass gave you like 3 choices every time you hit a subclass feature and you could pick one of them. But they said at all of those places, there was always one that was the best option that everyone always picked. And so they're like, let's just go with those. But I actually disagree that they picked the objectively best ones. I question them. That's all. When you hit a creature with a weapon or an unarmed strike, that's interesting, or an unarmed strike, they're making sure they're differentiating that a lot. If they're hurt already, you can do an extra d8, so like an extra 4 damage once per turn. Hunter's Lore. So this is where a lot of people like this. I don't, and I've written about it before with the Monster Slayer, so let's talk about this. Basically, when you Hunter's Mark some monster, you learn its immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities. The way that I look at it is people didn't like, or at least DMs didn't, like that Rangers often negated exploration troubles because they just found food and water. Now you just auto-find immunities and resistances to and vulnerabilities of monsters. Just Hunter's Mark. They don't get to save or anything, you just, you know. Which is cool because it's like, kind of like a favored foe, you know, and you're really learning about them, but it's a mystic version of it. I find that a lot of the times immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities are pretty clear, at least with the most common monsters. Like ghosts, don't try to poison them. Weapons are going to go through them. There's an argument to say that new players won't know those things. I think some of them are intuitive, but some of them are not. It is better than the Monster Slayers version where they had to use more action and economy. This is just baked into the Hunter's Mark. So I will give them that. And so it doesn't excite me because I find that even if you don't know the immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities, you're usually going to figure them out pretty quick. Most DMs surrender that information pretty quickly. They don't wait till the end of the first round of combat to tell you, oh, all of your attacks as you attacked in unison within that 6-second period, you all step back and you realize it didn't hurt it as much as you thought, or it didn't hurt it at all. You know, and that's a way to make the game more intense, is kind of delay that information by round. It's something I've talked about in, like, I don't remember, some article. But I think the norm, the reason I wrote that is because the norm is just to give them the information as soon as they attack, and sometimes before they attack, to try to hint to the player so that they don't waste an attack. Because again, a lot of these changes are based on making players not have those feel bad moments where it's like, oh, I wasted my action because I didn't know that it was immune to my attack. Let me know in the chat, do you like this? Do you like having a feature that tells you immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities? And if you do, or do you play with DMs who homebrew a lot of monsters and therefore it's like you're not gonna just kind of know what these are? Let me know what you think. I think it's an interesting question to see how people feel about it. If you're attacking with a magic bow, you usually don't have to know if they're immune or resistant to non-magical weapons because you have a magical bow. That also is a good point. But also, here's the other thing, is if you're in a campaign where you kind of fight a lot of the same monsters over and over again, DMs using a lot of undead creatures, this might help you once or twice, but then you just kind of like, okay, I've figured out undead now. We don't have to keep learning all their immunities, resistances, and vulnerabilities over and over again. That's the other thing. Is this gonna become like the new, I have dark vision, or I have danger sense? Where every time you hunter's mark someone, you're gonna look at the DM and say like, any IRV? And the DM will say, no. Like, oh, okay. Scott says, I like the hunter's lore as I homebrew monsters a lot, so it's a good way to help the PCs as a balance. And that's great. I'm glad that it excites you and that would be a helpful tool for your player. 10th level, multi-attack. I hate this. There's a cool concept here, but I hate it. The name sucks, first of all. Just multi-attack. You always have Conjure Barrage prepared. Cool, so it's another preparation you get that you don't have to worry about. And you can cast Conjure Barrage. And if you want, you can cast it at a lower level for less damage. So this is something that's not existed in the game yet. Downcasting. You learn a spell that is 3rd level, and now you have it. And now that you have it, you can cast it at lower levels, diminishing effects. Cool concept, but this stinks. It used to be that you could pick a 10-foot area and roll an attack for everything in that area, which was great because then you could add sharpshooter to it and do extra damage. Now it's based on a dex save, and it's what, 3d8? So average damage is like 12. Passing the saving throw, it's like 6. It's a big area, 60-foot cone, but at 10th level, are you lining up a bunch of goblins in this way? If you are, that's gonna feel great, but other options, please. I don't like this at all. And then at 14th level, Superior Hunter's Defense. This I actually like. 2 of the 3 features that you could choose as a hunter for their hunter capstone, let's say, and combine them. So it used to be you could use your reaction when an attack damages you to take half damage from that attack. So you can still do that. That damage that you halved, like the damage you didn't take, you can redirect it to one creature within 5 feet of yourself. So if someone shoots an arrow at you, you kind of deflect it and take half damage if they hit you. And then it's like you deflect the arrow at someone next to you who was also attacking you, and they take that damage that you just prevented to yourself. So now instead of having to choose between the 2, you get them both in one. And I think that's really cool. I wish they would do stuff like that more often. I also agree that the name multi-attack sucks. Yeah, multi-attack. James says this sucks. Nick, they should make some spells that let you downcast them. Yeah, for sure. Downcasting is a cool idea as invocation or meta magic. Multi-attack. It's not actually a multi-attack anymore. Yeah, you no longer roll attacks when you use multi-attack. You just cast Conjure Barrage, and that is your multi-attack with no attack rolls. That is hilarious. I didn't even think of that.